to Jay Sekulow Live, and tomorrow night we're going to be doing, so we'll be on the air tomorrow during the day, kind of monitoring what's going on throughout the day with the election. But we're going to be on tomorrow night on places like Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, and ACLJ.org. You can find us on all those places. And starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to have our team, but we're also going to be joined by people like, Rick Grinnell, who's on our team. We're going to be joined by Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General, who's on the president's legal team throughout the impeachment's been very involved in the campaign. Matt Schlapp, who's been campaigning across the country for President Trump, and we're kind of adding others by. I think Sean Spicer may be joining us as well. So we're going to have a lot of great folks joining us. Yeah. We're at least going to go 2 hours, possibly 3. So we're going to try to take you through at least some early state calls to get a sense if any are coming in.
And there'll be some trends.
Yes, about trends, about what we're expecting on election night. So check that out tomorrow night, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, last time in 2016, we gave an analysis very early, earlier in the evening than others did, because what we saw was that Virginia, it was the Clinton-Kaine take. I remember it was Tim Kaine, who's a very popular Virginia senator. And we saw that in Virginia, Trump was only down at that point by, I think, 1.5%. And we said, if it stays like this, and it was Virginia pretty much reported, well, that's going to be a big victory for Donald Trump coming up if it was that close. So, again, Andy, I'm thinking tomorrow night we're going to go on live at 9, where there'll be some states called. Florida's going to come in pretty quickly. They say they expect Florida to be in before midnight.
Yeah, Florida, has 2 time zones. There's the Eastern time zone and then the Panhandle, which is heavily for Trump, in the Central time zone, which will follow quickly thereafter. But, Jay, I agree with you. I think we're going to hear from Florida pretty quickly down there. And from what I could see in the rally that was held at midnight last night in Opelika, which is a suburb of Miami, the momentum is there for the president.
Yeah, I want to ask this to Jordan and Thane, because this was one thing I was wondering. You cannot even compare the crowds. Right, you can't even compare the crowds, but what Joe Biden's getting in those parking lot beeping things, honking horns, and the president getting 40,000 people last night in Miami, 35,000 in Rome, Georgia, which is probably more than the population of Rome, Georgia by a lot.
It is.
On and on it goes. Even this morning, I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 people out there in Fayetteville, North Carolina, early this morning. So how does this enthusiasm play into this? Because in the polling, the president's still behind some of these states, close. Obviously, everything in the margin of error, but close. But the enthusiasm is no question.
Well, first of all, it's true. You can't even compare the enthusiasm or the size crowds between the two candidates. Jay, it's also such a unique campaign season with the pandemic that we're coming out of and trying to move beyond that. So I think it's actually difficult to compare the size numbers from 2020 to 2016. And quite frankly, it makes the sizes that President Trump is campaigning in front of all the more impressive. But I do think, Jay, it's a very relevant point because 2016 was the first presidential election cycle where the enthusiasm that you could see at one of these rallies actually ended up to be more important than the polling. And I don't know why we would expect that to be any different this time around, especially since the incumbent is the same candidate we looked at last time around. So I think there's a real danger in looking at these polls and concluding that that's the best piece of analysis. I think the 2 pieces of analysis you should be looking at are the 2016 map and then the enthusiasm gap between the candidates. And, Jay, that's why I came down where I did on last week's broadcast. I think a re-elect is very likely.
Let me play what Norah O'Donnell from CBS Face the Nation said yesterday and then get Jordan's comment.
There is an intensity on the Republican side. There is an intensity on President Trump's travel schedule. He's going to 5 states today. He hit 4 places in Pennsylvania yesterday. On Monday, he's going to Scranton, which is, of course, Joe Biden's birthplace. So I'm hearing from people there is a tightening of the gap and there is an enthusiasm on the Republican part. They think that they can turn out the people on Election Day.
Let me tell you something. When you hear that from mainstream media, because they can see it, they can't lie about it anymore. Who's got the intensity? Who's got the momentum? Well, we've heard. You hear from Norah O'Donnell. They're going to go to the hometown of Joe Biden to campaign there. Then you have to take this into account. Last week, we were hearing from Democrat Congresswoman in Florida that they were in trouble in Miami, and we know that's the case. We also heard from Stabenow that they were in trouble in Michigan, that the auto workers she was talking to, she assumed would be voting for Biden, were all going to be voting for Trump. So that's Michigan, Pennsylvania and Florida, where we've heard warning signs from the mainstream media and or elected Democrats at the federal level.
Yeah, so look, I think it's
always better, too. The fact that he's got this intense schedule, you want to be the underdog in these. You want to be the fighter. You want to be the person who surges at the end. You want the late surge. That's how you win elections. And you get a late surge by campaigning as tough as the president's doing right now, by saying, look at the schedule I am holding today, all over North Carolina in 4 different states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And this is the final day of campaigning. I wouldn't take away that he ends up somewhere tomorrow.
I don't
think it'll be in a blue. I don't think it'll be in a swing state because you don't want to distract people from actually voting. You need your people to vote. But he might go into like a red state just to keep the thing on the media, keep things pumped up.
Yeah, well,
Joe Biden is only going to 2 places.
Yeah, I spoke last night.
Cleveland, Ohio, where he's down in Ohio, and or tied, not looking great for him there, and then one stop in Pennsylvania with a drive-in in Pittsburgh, which is his weakest area of Pennsylvania, with Lady Gaga, who's been mocking rural Trump voters.
So I spoke to the president last night. It was probably 11:30 or so. It was on his way to Miami for the Miami rally or the Opelika rally. And I will tell you, everybody, he was very upbeat. He's very energized. Look, the lawyers know where the battles are going to be. We have a pretty good idea already. And I think if there's an attempt to steal, that attempt to steal, I think Andy's going to be in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Jay. Your analysis on that is absolutely correct.
They've already mucked with it by moving dates that the legislature didn't authorize and the state Supreme Court said you could.
Right.
So that gives you something there.
Yeah, that's the state to watch. I think that's the state ultimately to watch where the mischief might occur. And I think we need to be vigilant, as we are. Our lawyers are ready. We're looking at that. We're poised. We have our analysis. We have our strategy. We have the things that we're going to do. But that's it with the surge in enthusiasm that I see in Pennsylvania for the president, elsewhere, but particularly in Pennsylvania, there's only one way that he can lose that, and that's that if it's stolen from him.
I'll tell you this, though. I think that the margin of victory could be big enough in Pennsylvania, Jordan, that the litigation – here's where that litigation is so everybody understands. So the court authorized a 3-day extension for voting in Pennsylvania, not the legislature, the court. Federal courts tried to do that, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. State court did it, and John Roberts, the deciding vote, said, yeah, well, a state court can do it.
Right.
At least we're not going to issue a stay. Stay request was denied. There was a motion to expedite Supreme Court review of the Pennsylvania case. That was also denied. By the way, I was not surprised that was denied. And the reason I say that I'm not surprised that was denied, was because what you have to look at is what was it that you were asking the Supreme Court to do. So they're going to wait. If there's a Pennsylvania challenge, and by the way, if we have to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, it's already up there, actually. On a moment's notice, we are ready to go. We have a full legal team in place, 3 of which are on this broadcast right now. But there's many more, believe me. And there's in every precinct, in every state, and we have a whole team dedicated to the Supreme Court of the United States if necessary. But that will only be necessary. For instance, if at the end of the night, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, more likely, the president is, say, plus 70 or 80,000 in Pennsylvania, I believe the networks will still not call it, even though the outstanding ballots in that 3-day period is probably not more than 5,000. I still don't think they'll call it.
Right, in the 3-day period you're talking about, that unique period where they have to be segregated, unless there is some goofiness, and if there's way more than 3,000 to 5,000 ballots, something is wrong. So, like, for instance, in Florida, we look at the Democrats. Remember I was telling you, for Donald Trump to win, it has got to be Election Day turnout by Republicans. Now, that's a pretty good indication there's going to be heavy Election Day turnout on both sides, but that it should favor Republicans this time because they have taken President Trump's warning not to trust the mail. And now the Democrats are saying, don't trust the mail either, by the way. But in Florida, the Democrats only lead Republicans by the early vote, and this is up till yesterday, so don't even have today's in yet, by 108,000 votes. That's nothing in Florida. So that means that though Democrats were the ones who were told, you need to vote early, and Republicans were the ones being told, vote in person. Now, that includes voting in person early, too. See? So it's not just mail-in. Do you know how quickly that disappears for Joe Biden?
Oh, in like first 3 minutes when they start reporting real.
First 3 minutes of the day tomorrow.
Yeah.
When the elections are open. So they're in a tough spot in Florida. They're not where they wanted to be. You could tell that, and yet he's not going to be there today.
What does that say?
He's run out of places to go, and kind of, I think they can't, he thinks he's got to be in Pennsylvania, basically. He's all day in Pennsylvania, except for one stop in Cleveland, because I think they know if they lose Pennsylvania, like we said last time, we called it right then, if you lose Pennsylvania, you lost Joe Biden.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think quickly on that? Same thing?
Without Pennsylvania, Joe Biden doesn't have a path. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Because they're saying, it's not necessary. You can lose Florida and Pennsylvania.
But the wave that happens, people are still voting in other states by the time that you could be so down in Pennsylvania that even though they won't call a loss, it will be a loss. That's what our job is going to be tomorrow, is saying when Joe Biden has actually lost the state before the networks.
Thanks to your support of the ACLJ, we have had many victories.
The IRS now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups.
The IRS did the right thing by resolving the case with an injunction that mandated a complete change of the IRS nonprofit tax-exempt work as it relates to issue advocacy organization.
If any group feels like they're being targeted, they can go to federal court and bring our case. That's a victory.
It's one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history, to take on the IRS and win.
For more than 27 years, the ACLJ has been fighting for freedom and liberty in the United States and around the globe.
These are young people in their 20s and 30s that are doing this, are fighting for life at a whole new level to beat back the abortion juggernaut. We've got a whole group of young lawyers that are defending them.
Those of us that believe in life know that we're on the right side of history. We understand full well children are children, and they're precious in God's sight, and they're precious in our nation's sight, and they're precious to parents.
But I actually think we're winning. This is one of the social issues we're winning.
The release of Andrew Brunson. He is the American evangelical from North Carolina, held in Turkey for more than 2 years.
They're rushing us to the airport, and there was an Air Force plane that came from Germany that had been on standby. We're flying, and they finally left Turkish airspace. It's like, okay, now we're really out of Turkey and free again.
We're grateful to ACLJ who put it out to these people, they were getting all this out.
All of the people who prayed for us through ACLJ and through your contacts, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and actually I'm astounded.
We need your help as we continue this work here in the United States and around the world. Join the matching challenge today, and your tax-deductible donation will be doubled.
I don't think anyone can take away from the president that he has fought harder than any other president, one, on this campaign compared to Joe Biden, but two, for our country. Whether you like him or not, he is fighting, and whether you like the way he's fighting or what he's fighting for economically, but to get us energy independent, maybe you're some Green New Dealer and you don't like the fact that we're energy independent because we're relying on natural gas, oil, and fracking in our own country, well, then vote for Joe Biden because he wants to get rid of fracking. How's that going to go over in Pittsburgh, by the way, with the Shell plant in the background, in places like that tonight? I mean, that's why it's weird that that's where Joe Biden's closing. He's closing in a place where the jobs that came back will close if he gets what he wants. So, I mean, it's such an easy message point for Republicans. I have a feeling around Heinz Stadium is going to be a MAGA rally tonight, just like we've seen at these other events where the Trump supporters show up in droves to just drown out. Because Barack Obama, I'll play this before we get to the Biden, kind of give everybody a little fun today, and we'll get to some of your phone calls. Barack Obama was talking about Trump's obsession with crowd size. Now, this was a guy who campaigned with big numbers,
Huge.
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
It was a sign that he was going to win. I mean, usually when he got the kind of numbers compared to like Mitt Romney or John McCain, you could look at those and say, wow, this is going to be hard to beat. They don't want to admit that this time with Donald Trump. Take a listen to Barack Obama himself.
What is his obsession, by the way, with crowd size? You notice that? He's always worried. This is the one measure he has of success. He's still worrying about his inauguration crowd being smaller than mine. It really bugs him. He's still talking about that. Does he have nothing better to worry about? Did no one come to his birthday party when he was a kid? Was he traumatized?
Let me tell you what's pretty traumatic. You're the former president of the United States. Okay?
To a bunch of
and
cars.
you're speaking to cars that are honking in agreement. Now, I want to know when this is all over and President Trump wins, I want to know the genius in the Democratic strategy group that came up with that
job in life.
Because let me tell you something. What you would have been better. He would have been better off going to a camera and just making a speech.
Yeah, I listened to it in the car with my daughter, and she knows the voices now of the candidates, especially President Trump's. But she was asked about who's this other person. It's Joe Biden, and she hears the honking horns, and she said, "Why are people honking at us?" I said, "No, that's coming from the radio." She said, "Why is the radio honking at us?" I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absurd, and to even try to explain it to kids, it's like, what is wrong? So, yeah, some genius came up with that, and I think you're right. When Donald Trump wins, the fact that they had people line up in huge stadiums and honk horns, which is like the most annoying sound. And it's a sound of like you need to, catch yourself. What's going on? Why is someone honking?
And if they honk long, does that mean they agree? And short, if they disagree? But here was the other one. Kamala Harris was in Georgia, in Gwinnett County.
Right.
So I think they decided I don't think we have any of the audio from that. It's horrible. I don't know if we have it. I mean, just the quality's horrible. My thought on that one, when I watched that one, what did they do? Let's go out. Can we find the cheapest audio people we can find?
Yeah.
So that when she speaks, you can't even figure out what she's saying.
Well, that's what they want, because listen to Joe Biden. This is just his weekend of gaffes. This is why Joe Biden was not on the campaign trail most of this time, because when he finally did hit the campaign trail this weekend, the final weekend before Election Day, this is just a sample of some of the gaffes we've put together for you. Bite 24.
Philly girl, and I am Finnegan Biden's grandma. That's her grandma, and I'm her grandpa. Folks, we got a lot of work to do. I don't only need you to get me elected, I need you once I'm elected. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Barack and I think it's a right for people to have bad health care. I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
I mean, the last one we don't know what the
one is that we're going to have the most comprehensive voter fraud operation in the United States. And the truth is, they're trying to do that in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah, a little slip of the tongue there, because this is an old-school Tammany Hall-style Democrat in Joe Biden who is absolutely familiar with voter fraud, loves voter fraud.
Well, you said something very important. If the ballots that come in Tuesday, so here's how you trace it.
The 8 o'clock
Let's see what comes in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or today, Monday and Tuesday. How many mail-in ballots did they receive?
Right.
Because
they should receive more today than tomorrow.
Yes, right. Should be less each. Yeah. Okay. So Pennsylvania's been saying now for 5 days, don't mail it in.
Right. They're telling you don't.
Put it in the drop box. Come in and do it in person. Okay. Put your ballot in person.
So they think some are going to come in on Election Day. Their story. They think some will come in on Election Day and be postmarked in time, so we need a couple days to count those.
Okay, fine. But now they extended the time period for 3 days. So let's say the last day of Election Day,
the whole state
Tuesday, the whole state of Pennsylvania, there's, 40,000 come in. 20,000. It's probably more like 10,000. But
yeah.
Okay. But what do you do then if on Wednesday there are 65,000 or 70,000?
Right.
Well, then you say someone's making this stuff up.
Right. Cooking the numbers.
So what you have to do,
and we know how many live ballots. We've all showed them on air. Rick Rennell got banned from Twitter for showing some. I got banned. I didn't get banned. I showed them two. I have 2 live ballots in my bag right now, Washington D.C. So there are live ballots out there, definitely to stuff.
So here's my question. It's not a question. This is what's going to happen. If let's say the president's plus 70,000 on,
and they find 80,000.
Exactly.
Well, if they find 80,000, it's not enough. They'd have to find like 160,000.
Yeah.
To say that they even had a chance in the count.
That's why I don't think it's going to end up maturing. But,
I don't trust Philly.
And, Than, I was going to ask you the same question. If there's going to be voter mischief, isn't Pennsylvania the voter mischief capital? Philly especially?
Yeah, no question about it. And, Jay, this goes back to the point you made. If it seemed a little bit strange that Pennsylvania is not called, it's for this reason, really a twofold reason. One, there's not a path for Joe Biden without Pennsylvania. It is literally the keystone state for him. I know that's the state's motto. It's the keystone state for him as well. But the second point is the one you just made, Jay. There has to be a population center of enough votes where there can be a credible case made that they were coming in late. Now, look, the scenario and the numbers that you just put to Jordan, those aren't credible. But, Jay, it doesn't mean that wouldn't be the case that would be made, and it would be the state in which they would have the best chance of making it. So I agree with you. I don't think Pennsylvania is likely to be called tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think it could be called. I think they're going to try not to call it. I'll call it we'll call it if we think the numbers are justifying it. And I'll tell you something else. Forget calling it. The legal side of this is, Andy, and you know this because you're working on this. We have teams on the ground and ready at the Supreme Court for any and all scenarios that might unfold.
Yeah, we're not going to let this thing go by without us scrutinizing it legally and seeing what our options are in the Supreme Court of the United States.
Including also people in the elector's office when they're opening these ballots that come in those 3 days, giving live-time reports as to what's happening.
Inspecting it on the scene, at the scene, and making sure that it's being done the right way. Look, this is the state in which it can be lost. I don't see how, with the massive momentum that the president has, that he can lose Pennsylvania except through fraud, Jay.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out, but we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, folks, we've got second half hour coming up. We got one line open, and, folks, let me tell you, for those of you who've been holding on for Morella and Aaron, we're going to get to you first, right, when we come back on second half hour, Jay Sekulow Live. 1-800-684-3110. This is the final Jay Sekulow Live show before Election Day. So we want your thoughts and your predictions. We made our predictions on Friday. I'll ask the group again, do they have any changes to their prediction? Are they feeling any nervous? We'll do it again tomorrow. But what about your predictions, folks? 1-800-684-3110. And I don't mind if you're predicting the other side, too. We need to know what you think, what you're seeing on the ground and in your state. We'll be right back. Support the work of the ACLJ, aclj.org.
We're in a fight for life that is incredible right now. Barbaric and horrific. This is the New York State's law on unrestricted abortion. No protection for the unborn child.
Not only did they pass it, they celebrated it.
Zero protection. Used to have personhood protection.
Right.
Now they don't.
That is now all completely repealed.
We've handled a series of cases involving those that are being persecuted for their faith. They called it terrorism, but they actually use in the indictment itself the word Christianization.
A principal comes and yanks your Bible away.
A teacher became aware that the student was reading from the Bible.
We're here standing for these kids and their families.
Prohibited from meeting with other Christians during recess.
We do have to fight against them when they occur. Otherwise, those abuses will win the day.
This is a fight that you're going to have to be engaged in. It's already a long-term struggle. It is not over.
We are so grateful to the people who prayed for us, and we are so grateful for ACLJ.
Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
All right, welcome back to Jay Sekulow Live. So the candidates, where are they? Right now, President Trump is in North Carolina. Then he's going to be in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Those are the final four states. I couldn't agree with him more on those final four states, Pennsylvania being so clear. Now, his rival, Vice President Joe Biden, he's spending almost all day in Pennsylvania, including an event tonight with mocking Trump voter, pop star Lady Gaga, who I think her candidate is not in the shallows anymore. And probably the deep end. We'll see how she performs to a crowd of cars. But I have a feeling that if you're in the Pittsburgh area, there's got to be
the Toyotas.
I mean, they're literally, it's true, though. And like, I think they let you out of your car, but you have to touch it. You have to be able to touch your car to be out of your car, or else you're not. It's like a car is not distanced enough for them outside. But I have this feeling, and maybe not. Maybe people just had enough. But the Heinz Stadium could be just filled with Trump supporters around it, honking their horns the entire time. And of course, Joe Biden doesn't like that. He calls that ugly behavior. How about don't use horn honking as your campaign rally, a way of people applauding and not applauding. But anyhow, he's the only other place Joe Biden is going is Cleveland, Ohio. He's making one other stop other than spending the day in Pennsylvania and the evening in Pennsylvania. What does that tell me? He is very nervous. He has no path to victory because of Pennsylvania, and that Ohio also is slipping. Where is he not spending his time? He's not going to Florida. He's not going to Georgia. He's not going to North Carolina. He's not going to Arizona. He's going to Pennsylvania all day. That's how nervous they are, because then all those things that say, oh, President Trump only has a 10% chance, except when he wins Pennsylvania, look at what the percentages go up, 75% chance of winning, So
do you think that's right? Do you think if the president wins, this is my scenario for Tuesday night.
If he wins Pennsylvania,
Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, done?
Yes.
I mean, just because of what it means?
Yeah, I mean, people will still be voting in other places. They need, if you live in other states, you need to keep voting. Because remember, that could be like early in the evening in your state. So you need to keep voting out in Arizona and places like that. Don't. It's not done.
How does McSally's race look?
It's very tight. I mean, that was a race that people thought was outside of the, not even really competitive. I think that probably for her to win, Donald Trump needs a good victory there, and not just like a 0.5. But if he gets a 1 or 2 point victory, then you could have Mark Kelly beat. Mark Kelly's come under a lot of criticism because of his ties to China.
Yeah. So
business ties.
You want to try to grab the first call?
Yeah, let's go right to him. People have been holding on. Let's go to Morella in Louisiana. Thanks, Morella, for holding on. You are on the air.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Listen, I came legally from Venezuela in 1989 and became a citizen in 1995. Now, socialism won in Venezuela in 1999 by the popular vote, and they changed the constitution and took over all the institutions, including the Supreme Court. Now, for 20 years, we have been trying to vote them out of office with no avail. I want to encourage your citizens, to your listeners, not to take for granted their rights to vote and go and vote. Because if the Democrats, just let me finish this. Yep. If the Democrats abolish the Electoral College, we will never be able to vote them out again. Just listen to Venezuela.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Morella. And, yesterday, did you hear Senator Kamala Harris, because she put out this tweet as well, but this message that equality is not equity, and we want equity. And I'll play it for you, but what she said, which is very communist, is that equity is that everyone finishes in the same place. Not everyone gets the same start, which is what America's about.
Right.
We are all constantly fighting in America. We're not perfect. We're constantly fighting in America to get to where everyone gets to start the same. That's why we support school choice.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you're going to end in the same place. Some people will be successful. Other people will not. We will play Kamala Harris and her description because remember, Joe Biden calls Kamala Harris, he's her running mate.
Yeah.
And there's already reports he's not going to run a second term. So, Joe Biden gets elected, it's really Kamala Harris' White House. He's going to be setting her up the entire time to take the mantle. He'll be president for like a couple of years, and then they'll be pushing her ahead. And she's pushing a message that equality is not good enough in America anymore. Yeah. Now it has to be equity. And those terms may seem the same. I got to say something that is just absurd. Let's put this tweet up. This is from the Pennsylvania Attorney General. I'm about to respond to him on Twitter because he's the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, right? So he would be the Attorney General for everybody.
Right.
And he is a Democrat. But he said if all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose. Well, he didn't lose last time.
Whoa. This is from the sitting Attorney General of Pennsylvania?
Yeah. If all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump's going to lose.
How does he know that?
Well,
maybe because he's going to fix it.
That's why he's working overtime to subtract as many votes as possible from this process. Then he says he's 0-6 against us in court. We've protected voting rights. Except for what he doesn't admit in this tweet is that all of those votes he wants to count late have been segregated by the Supreme Court. So that's not automatic.
First of all.
But can you believe that he said that?
No, I cannot believe he said it.
Donald Trump won it last time.
I want it back up on the screen.
It's on it.
I want it. Okay, because I want to see it. All right. If all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose. Now, I'm a lawyer for the President of the United States, as are three of us on this broadcast right now. And I've got the Pennsylvania Attorney General telling me before Election Day, Harry Hutchison, before Election Day, Director of Policy, that Donald Trump is going to lose if we add up all the votes. He knows that.
Well, the key question is how does he know it? In other words, the real question...
7,000 ballots ready to go.
That may be the case. And maybe, like Peter Strzok before him, he has an insurance policy created within the internal Pennsylvania government. Well, that is the only way that he can know beforehand And I think most of us would reject his claim he doesn't know. It's up to the voters of Pennsylvania to determine the outcome of the election in Pennsylvania. It's not up to the lieutenant
Josh
governor.
Shapiro has just put out the tweet to say they're fraud. They're going to commit fraud.
Yeah.
I'm now saying to you, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, you're probably committing or about to engage in a crime because you're saying that Donald Trump can't win in a state that he won 4 years ago.
Specific as to what the man
That's
said.
what he said.
If all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose.
And
How does he know this?
And what
They
votes
haven't
does he
voted
mean?
yet, by
Does
the
he
way.
mean votes that shouldn't be counted? Because
Disputed
people
ballots,
or
ballots
people
that came in late, or
let's
ballots
say,
that are not
I don't know.
verified?
Do the polls close at 8 there?
Well, how does he
People
know
get in
any of
line
this?
at 8:15. Are they allowed to vote?
But hold it.
This is the scam that is out of Pennsylvania constantly. But this is the state AG.
Well, this is what I'm telling you.
And
I
if the
have
state
worked-
AG is supposed to represent the entire state, Republican and Democrat,
Right.
and he's making partisan statements like this
Yeah.
the day before an election, he should resign.
Okay, so
He won't.
Andy and I have both worked for states' attorney generals,
Yes.
and you affirm an oath. We swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. This attorney general in Pennsylvania has now. He's not. It's my prediction. It's not. He's saying it's in my view. It's a definitive statement. If all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose.
I think you got to quote that first part too. If all the votes are added up,
Yeah.
not all the legal votes. If
It's
all
called
the
the
votes,
votes.
which
In other-
means the people who got in line after the polls are closed,
Right.
or
the
ballots that
mail-in
just show
ballots
up.
that show up, and there's more mail-in ballots that show
But
up
how
on
does he even
election
know
day.
that?
Because it's already taken care of, Jay. It's already
That's how they
fixed.
fix it.
The fix is in.
That's why you have
he's
to be
already
ready.
taken care of
So
it.
he should be our opening line in the Supreme Court brief.
Well, I think
Mr.
you
Chief
have it
Justice,
now.
may
Yeah.
it please the court. On October 31st, Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General for the state of Pennsylvania, announced that if all the votes were counted, that President Trump was going to lose.
3 days.
How
before
did he know this 3 days before the election? How does he know it the day before the election? And how does he know it 2 days after the election? Now, if that, in fact, I want to have that available for Tuesday and Wednesday. But I'm telling you, if this is what happens, if Donald Trump is up, say, plus 70, 80,000 on election night, then, and mysteriously, 100 and whatever the number Jordan gave, 135,000 ballots show up, when in the 3 days before only 80,000 ballots showed up, you know they're playing with it. You know they're playing with the votes.
And in that scenario, Jay, it would be none other than Josh Shapiro that would have a role in adjudicating or at least arguing on one side of what happens to those votes. Let me just say this, Jay. Free and fair elections are absolutely essential for the preservation of our republic, but free and fair elections are not automatic. It's not written in the stars. It doesn't just happen. It falls to the duty of elected officials like Josh Shapiro to defend them and to stand for them over all candidates. I just can't tell you how much it bothers me for a sitting official with the primary duty of ensuring a free and fair election to do this in advance. He ought to be called out. And Jay, you're right. I mean, if this goes to litigation on Wednesday or Thursday, does this sound like someone who would be responsible for advocating for it?
Boy, I mean, I'm just thinking here. I mean, Harry, from a legal ethics standpoint, to prejudge and make a declaration like that.
Well, I think one of the things we should keep in mind is elites like Josh Shapiro do not necessarily believe in legal ethics. They believe in one thing and one thing only, the acquisition of power by any means necessary.
Yeah, but I mean, what Jordan said, I mean, this guy's supposed to be the attorney general for the entire state.
Yeah.
All right, so we just need to watch it.
He tweets out at Trump, too. He said, our elections are over when all the votes are counted, but if your lawyers want to try us, we'd be happy to defeat you in court. What he doesn't want is legal challenges happening until like 2 weeks later, is what he's saying. He's trying to say. So he's trying to scare. Let me just tell you something, folks. I don't want this to have to be a legally fought-out election.
Nobody does.
Josh Shapiro might, the AG, so he gets some kind of notoriety. But the truth is, anybody who cares about the country, you want this election to be decided on election night fairly, freely. If it's not, we're going to go to court. Let me tell you something, though. When we go to court over this stuff, I mean, and these guys are talking about stays they got. You know what we got? We got every one of their late ballots, which haven't even come in yet because the late ballots haven't started yet, are going to be segregated as late. And we got Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court now. I don't have to play games about that anymore. She's a justice. Confirmed. So all those L ballots late in Pennsylvania might be tossed out the door.
I think you could have more.
Got to be concerned.
I think.
You
Listen, I think you could also.
That's why the AG is tweeting this. They're concerned.
Yeah, it's not just Justice Barrett. I mean, I just think
Joe
the rule
Biden's
of law.
there all day.
The rule of law. I mean, they denied a stay. Okay, and an expedited review because I want to see if they even need to engage it. I get that.
Right.
So, anyways, we will. Let's take a call, but we're gonna obviously.
Sure. Let's go to Aaron in California on line 3. Aaron, thanks for holding on.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I was getting worried. My wife and I,
Sure.
we're in a interracial relationship, and if she says she's a Trump supporter, she's a racist. If I say I'm a Trump supporter, I'm an Uncle Tom or I'm a sellout. But on the way home, it was so nice to see.
You there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was so nice to see the people lined up on the corner of Beach and Imperial over by where I lived. Just hundreds of Trump supporters. And
tell people where that is who are listening around the country. Aaron, what part of California?
La Habra.
Okay. Yeah, so this was happening all over California yesterday. There were these pro-Trump rallies.
Is there any chance?
I think, listen, California's a very tough state, but as Aaron knows, there's a lot of down-ballot Republicans. The state legislature there has a lot of powers, so state leaders have a lot of power at the local level. Of course, Republicans in the House seats, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard, Harry, to be hard for the president to see a way to win California. But in these pockets where you could have Republican congressmen, state representatives, that's significant. So the enthusiasm of the president, even in California, may not mean you take California, not likely, but it could have down-ticket impact.
I think you're absolutely correct in your analysis, particularly if you keep in mind what Governor Newsom has done to the state of California. Yeah. He has imposed draconian rules with respect to coronavirus, with respect to churches. You can't sing in church. And so I think this is going to propel an outpouring of support for Republicans in California.
Let's put the Attorney General's statement back up on the screen because this is important. Because I think Pennsylvania, if there's going to be litigation, I think, Andy, we've said it yesterday, Pennsylvania is going to be Pennsylvania. And this guy is saying that if all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose. Now, he's the Attorney General of the state.
I mean, that's an outrageous statement. That's an outrageous statement for the chief legal officer of the state to make, who's supposed to represent all the people and is supposed to apply the law fairly and fully and completely, to make a statement, if all the votes in California, all the votes, in other words, legal, illegal, late, early, delayed, past the 3-day limit, whatever, all the votes, if every single vote is counted, Trump is going to lose. How do you know that, except that you have already worked it out, Mayor Daley, so that it's going to come out the way you want to? That's what it is. This is Chicago in 1960. It's just now been transferred to Pennsylvania in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, the two most recent polls in Pennsylvania have Trump up by 1 and Trump up by 2. That's within the margin of error, obviously. So what does it mean? Who has the energy on Election Day?
And that's not a big pre-election place, they say percentage-wise. Early voting is not huge
Pennsylvania?
there. Yeah.
I mean, it was this cycle. I think it got 2 million plus. Yeah. 2 million plus have come in Pennsylvania. So it's and they don't get to start counting until it's closed.
Yeah.
So I mean, now 0.2 and 0.3% in Pennsylvania can be millions. So I mean, we just have to watch it. I think the focus, everybody's focus when you start watching it, is Donald Trump's got to win Florida. Okay. He probably needs to win North Carolina, but it's not a must win. You need to be a good to win. And then Pennsylvania is the first East Coast major state that I think is in play for both and leaning Trump.
Because of the support of every member of the ACLJ, one of the practice areas that we've been able to develop is Freedom of Information Act requests, or FOIA requests.
It's thousands of pages of paper, and in those thousands of pages of paper, you usually find a nugget.
The goal here is to gather the puzzle pieces. Sometimes you don't know which ones will be important until they become important.
Government agencies acting out of control.
We have exposed that in our FOIA litigation, and we do that every day that we bring these cases.
It is your staff statutory right as an American citizen to have access to documents that reveal how the government is functioning, how your government is functioning.
Do you remember the Iran deal? There was a video about what took place on that deal, and it was edited. The edit took out the key part of what was going on. State Department, White House, editing videos to keep it from the American public.
We know because our FOIA litigation got that document.
We took it to the IRS. No one ever does that.
And what the IRS was doing was violating the Constitution and statutory law. Because of the litigation we engaged in, they can't do what they were doing before.
They've been hiding behind in the shadows. These FOIAs bring them to light.
All of this information came because we went to court to get the information.
Many times when we make these requests, the requests actually end up in court as the bureaucracy fights back to withhold the information. But that's okay because the law is on our side. We are entitled to the information that is in these requests that we have made.
We've got the declassified list of Obama administration officials who started asking to unmask.
We have caught them now.
They have no one in there to protect them anymore. They were used to the bureaucracy protecting them.
Those of you that support the ACLJ, this is what it's all about at the end of the day.
Support the work of the ACLJ with our matching challenge. Go to aclj.org. It's all because of you. And you can double the impact your donation today at aclj.org. Go online and donate now. All right, so this is our final segment before Election Day. Of course, we're going to be joining you on Election Day, regular time for Jay Sekulow Live, and then a special show that we're doing from starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Ending whenever.
Question mark on the end. So we're going to have people like Rick Rennell, Pam Bondi, Matt Schlapp, Sean Spicer. They're going to be joining us tomorrow night throughout, of course, our team as well. Rick Rennell, who is a member of the ACLJ team, special advisor, he's been out there on the campaign trail also because he's a consultant for the RNC, is joining us right now. I want to take a call before I go to Rick, and that is Eileen in Rhode Island online too. Hey, Eileen, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you taking my call. It was definitely worth the wait. I don't know who to predict for president because all of the, what's going on between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well, listen, I think, Eileen, here it is. Because I think you're in Rhode Island. You're listening to Rhode Island radio. It's heavily blue. They think Biden's going to win because they live around.
Eileen, are you hearing mostly because of your local radio that's just already done to Biden?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm a New Yorker through and through. I moved to Rhode Island.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
I'm out of New York.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Rick, I want to go to Rick right now because, Rick, I do think it's important, like where people are getting their news from at this point. I also think, Rick, it's probably a good idea for most people to, including Trump supporters. And a lot of us do all this media, and so Rick, you do a lot of it too. We are that media, but just go vote and get your friends to vote. Don't believe me, don't believe Rick Rennell, don't believe Donald Trump or Joe Biden. It's up to them to vote.
Yeah, totally, and that's how we won. That's how Donald Trump won in 2016. Is the people who believed in him, the red counties became super red. They became blood red. And that's how you're going to win, is you just get your people out to vote. I'm here in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Just was with Mike Pence, who had a big rally here. And that was one of his messages, which is no one votes alone. Take people to the polls. And I think that's exactly how, both sides are looking at it right now. They're both trying to get their supporters out. And I think the person who wins is going to be the person who brings their people out to vote more than the other.
I think that's exactly right, Rick. It's Jay. So let me ask you this. You're in Pennsylvania right now. Is that where you're going to be for the next – are you spending the whole day in Pennsylvania?
Yep. I have a couple more events in Pennsylvania. We'll end tonight in Philly. I'm in Latrobe now, and the vice president just left here. He's going to Erie, Pennsylvania. And then we'll be moving on to join the president later tonight. So I think we've got a ton of concentration in Pennsylvania, lots of surrogates. The president has been here so many times already. And I think what we just have to do is remind people that you only can win if you vote.
Well, that's right. And by the way, mentioned this earlier. I spoke to the president last night in between. He was flying from Rome, Georgia to Opelika, Florida, and he was extremely upbeat. He was extremely positive. Now, Rick, are there going to be any events tomorrow, or is that just going to be get out and vote day?
I think it's just get out and vote day. I'll be doing a couple of media hits to get out the vote and then headed towards Washington and be with the president at the White House for election coverage.
Yep.
All right, and Rick's going to be joining us tomorrow night, too, via Skype on that special. Let me take Rick's going to stay with us. Let me take Diane's call because, Rick, I think this is something, too, that people have got to be careful about as leaders. Diane in Ohio on line 6. Welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Well, thank you very much, Jordan, and thank you to all you blessed folks there at ACLJ.
Thanks.
We have almost an opposite scenario here than the one that you commented about, the Secretary of State saying that he knows whatever that scenario was. Governor DeWine here has come out and said that he's called Ohio for Trump, and he believes that we're going to have the numbers tonight for Trump, which we hate. Right. Yay, hooray, wonderful. But on the other hand, I don't understand why he's doing that. We've probably got a whole bunch of agonized Catholics still on the fence whether they're going to vote for their Democrat or not.
Let me tell you what I think in these things, Diane. Run like you're behind. Fan, that's always been my view. Run like you're behind. Even if you're ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're ahead or behind, you should run like you're behind, or at least like it's a competitive race. I do think it's important to point out, though, it's a little bit different for Governor DeWine. He doesn't have adjudication responsibilities for what happens in Ohio. Josh Shapiro does. Those are different scenarios.
And I think it's different, too, Rick, when you're the Republican governor and it's like you're on the trail for the RNC. I mean, you want to predict that your guy has a chance to win. You have to be clear about it. We can win. We will win if you turn out and vote. I think that's the message. And that may have been missed by that caller, Rick, but that should be the message from Republican leaders, state leaders like governors, is that we can win our state, absolutely, but you've got to show up and vote with your friends.
Yeah, I actually tend to agree a little bit with the caller that it's always good to encourage people to really vote, motivationally tell them you have to vote because we're behind or we're not that far ahead. The more you can talk about this being competitive, we need you, you've got to get out, it's within reach, all of those types of messages I think are really crucial. And I have been one on the Trump side that doesn't like it when we push out too much good polls or positive messages where it says we're up. Because first of all, we all know polls are wrong. So I don't want to base any analysis on some sort of 700 people in a poll when there's millions of people that have to vote. I've never believed polls. I've never been called by a pollster. I just actually don't think that it's a science at all. I think it's really hocus pocus. And let me just say this. If we have an election where Donald Trump wins decisively, I think it is the end of polling.
Yep.
I really believe that because they will have gotten it so wrong. Brexit, our election in 2016, consistently getting Senate races wrong. This could be the end of polling and the end of Washington, D.C. manipulation.
It is manipulation, too.
Can you imagine what it's going to be on the meltdown on these networks?
No, I mean, this is the idea. I think Rick is absolutely right here. Now, I want to take David's call. This is a very interesting question because, Rick, you've been affected by the social media, too, censorship. David in Indiana on line 4.
Hi, guys. Basically, we're coming up. You guys are going to be covering it tomorrow night on the election. And Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have all said and announced that anybody who calls any of the states or any of the elections before the end of the night, whatever that means, they will immediately shut down their account. How will you guys prevent that from happening?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how well they can monitor that when it's an overwhelming number in some state. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Rick, Donald Trump's up by 150 or 200,000 votes in a place like Florida. If the turnout's huge tomorrow, you think Facebook and Google, Twitter's going to shut down someone by saying it looks like Donald Trump's carried Florida?
Yeah, look, I don't put anything past big tech right now. They are not being honest with us. They are manipulating the process. They've got to. We've got to take them on. I'm somebody who wants to get very aggressive with them. They've demonstrated that they want to police the internet
Yep.
But the problem is they're only policing one side. That's just obvious in fact.
Well, I would say we'll talk to you tomorrow night, I guess. If we don't
talk
get
to him
shut
tomorrow
down.
too. Before.
We'll talk to you tomorrow too before. But we'll figure out how to stay on the air. But look, I think these were great calls today. Great questions.
Yeah,
Thanks, Rick.
Support the work of the ACLJ at aclj.org. Remember, we got normal show tomorrow and our special election night coverage, Facebook, YouTube, aclj.org, Periscope, and Twitter. Support our work, aclj.org. We'll talk to you tomorrow.